This is TWiT.
Apple will not give up its ambitions for creating great TV content. They haven't done it yet, but they did, remember, hire 2 Sony executives, and now they've done a deal with Steven Spielberg, okay? They're going to bring...
Have you heard of him?
Yeah, I've heard of him. Did you see the documentary on Spielberg?
I did not.
Oh, on HBO. It's must-see. Fantastic.
Hey, awesome.
And you may or may not remember he did a sci-fi series in the mid-'80s called Amazing Stories. Didn't last that long, but did win 5 Emmy Awards. Apple's has bought the rights. They're going to create 10 new episodes with NBC Universal and Spielberg's Amblin Entertainment. $5 million an episode. So that's a big $50 million commitment here. Spielberg will be executive producer, according to the Wall Street Journal. This is the first series they've taken on since they hired those 2, Zach Van Amberg and Jamie Ehrlich from Sony. Those 2 produced shows like Breaking Bad, The Crown, Better Call Saul, and so they have some pretty good chops. So,
yeah,
Planet of the
years ago
Apps.
we talked about this, Eddie. I'm sorry, Leo. Remember we talked about this years ago. And Alex
Are you
was saying
thinking
Apple
me
would
as
get
Eddie
into
Q? Come on, don't say that.
I was gonna say an Eddie Q thing, and then I transitioned, and only half my brain transitioned. But we were talking about this for years on Mac Break, especially Alex, about Apple getting into their own content.
Well, but then they did Planet of the Apps and Carpool Karaoke, and we thought, oh, geez. But this will be the first show that is, I think, a little closer to the mark.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, it leverages what's so important about this kind of television, where Amazing Stories, I think it lasted 2 seasons, wasn't it?
Yeah, only 2. 2 or 3.
And each one was like a little movie. It wasn't like all these reboots of the Twilight Zone where it's like minimal sets. Let's move the entire production to wherever Canada outsources its movie and video production out to
Northwest Territories,
to save
sir.
money. Exactly. What works great is these series that don't have to return ratings on an episode by episode basis, where the idea is investing in a collection of episodes that people are going to be coming back to time and time and time again. I mean, for heaven's sakes, we saw CBS do the entire new series of a Star Trek directly to streaming, because they think because they need something to get the average age of the CBS viewer on streaming a little bit down. It's all like Bob Newhart's show and CSI, but also because this way they can actually shoot the entire series. They know that they're going to have a new thing that they can then sell in perpetuity, without having to respond to how come it got beaten by the Big Bang Theory repeats 3 weeks in. So this is, I would much rather see them do something like this, which has the possibility, if it's like anything like its originator, to be interesting and unique and deeply, deeply, wonderfully weird, than something a knockoff of The Apprentice. A knockoff of Shark Tank, and then an expanded version of a really funny 6-minute video thing on a 12:30 a.m. talk show, as good as it is.
I do think that it all started with HBO really creating that kind of super high quality television. And the reason I've talked to creators who've gone to HBO, the reason people went to HBO is because they got freedom. They got money, they got budget, but more importantly for them, they're creatives, they got the freedom. Apple needs to do the same thing. It needs to show creatives that this is a good place to bring your projects. That will not just give you money, but that you will have creative freedom. You'll be able to make something high quality. You'll get an audience. Although I think audience is almost secondary. When you go to, HBO, you're guaranteed smaller.
No, it's subscription. It's not the audience. It's maintaining and increasing subscription bases.
Well, for Apple's point of view, but I'm saying from the creator's point of view, people like Dana Brunetti, who was this close to going with a major standard network provider, but got a call from Netflix the night before they signed the deal and decided to sell House of Cards to Netflix. Partly it was $100 million, but what Dana Brunetti said was, he's the producer for Trigger Street that produced House of Cards. It was the thing that he liked, weirdly enough, and that Kevin Spacey liked, was that they would do a whole series at once so people could binge it. They thought that was important. And they really liked that compared to what HBO or whoever else they were talking to would have done. It's that kind of thing that Apple can offer them. Creatives are so I think getting Spielberg is a very important start. Now, Spielberg being executive producer may merely mean they write him a check every week. But if they could get him to direct an episode, for instance, if you could really see that somebody of Spielberg's caliber was
just
saying,
attaching his name,
it helps. And getting the word out. This is a good place to do content. That's what's going to happen before Apple can create these prestige products.
They're going to have to show some shows. I think that was the criticism previously. It's like Apple's talking about it, but we don't know what an Apple TV show means. And this is their chance to show creatives in the industry what an Apple TV show means.
Yeah.
Well, like you said, they have to offer these creators something other than an audience. And right now, Hulu can give them an audience, Netflix can give them an audience, Apple cannot give them an audience. But to give you the worst examples, this is why people are screaming away from network television. There's a blog that I read written by Ken Levine. Might be Levine, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing the name, but he's been writing and directing TV for the past 20 or 30 years, and he does Q&A every single Friday, and it just seems so horrible what's been happening in network television over the past 10 or 15 years, where he says that someone asked him a question about, hey, there's a guy who, in this episode of Frasier, who said this one line, who was he? He said, oh, well, that's a friend of the cast or whatever, and then he goes on to say that that was back in the time where if you had an actor who only had to say one line, you could just cast whoever you thought was going to do a good job. But these days, even if it's just one line, the network needs to see 5 choices and needs to approve the choice. And when you, in that sort of environment, when you give them an option of, we will give you your budget, all we ask you to do is to deliver these episodes on time, and we don't even know how to drive from Silicon Valley to where your studio is. So just deliver it on time. That's got to be a huge attraction. I wouldn't be surprised if Spielberg did direct the first episode. I think there's actually I remember when Boardwalk Empire got started, produced by Martin Scorsese, one of the reasons why he directed the first episode, and one of the reasons why is that if you direct the first episode, you have a piece of the entire series. Even if you're not Martin Scorsese, even if you're not Steven Spielberg. But it would also just be, who's not going to tune in just to see anything directed by Steven Spielberg?
Yeah.
His triumphant return to television after Columbo.
Yeah.